Welcome to the first episode in a Legendarium series about the history of astrology. In Part 1, Gods in the Night Sky, we will talk about the origins of astrology in the Fertile Crescent and how they spread into Greece. The sky and the stars which appear at night are a universal constant. Every human being, from the nomadic tribes of the Great Eurasian Plain to the densely populated river valleys of China and Mesopotamia, see the same stars. In an age when light pollution is common, many people cannot see the night sky as our ancestors saw it. Yet through human history, all people had the opportunity to study and know the planets, stars, and constellations. Unsurprisingly, they are universally a part of human thought, science, and religion. Astronomy is the scientific study of the sun, moon, and stars. On the other hand, astrology is today regarded by the scientific community as a pseudoscience interpreting the supposed effect of heavenly bodies on human existence. Yet throughout much of human history, astrology and astronomy were intricately linked. It could be argued that astrology is astronomy practiced by people who view the sky as home to the gods. Since the gods influenced life on Earth, the patterns in the sky must surely reflect that influence. More than 20,000 years ago, during the Paleolithic, humans carved lunar tallies tracking the movements of the moon on bone fragments. However, the history of astronomy and astrology really began with the Sumerians, who recorded those observations as early as 3500 BC. Sumerians placed great importance on astronomical phenomena, for they equated planets with the gods. For example, Sumerians associated Jupiter with the god Marduk, patron deity of the city of Babylon. Sumerian astronomy, in turn, had an important influence on the astronomy of the Babylonians, who produced the first star catalogues around the year 1200 BC. By doing so, the Babylonians became the first nation to systematically apply mythology to the constellations and describe the 12 signs of the zodiac, which is still the basis of astrology today. Recent studies of Babylonian cuneiform tablets have shown they used sophisticated calculus to track the movements of Jupiter. Their concern with tracking the planet of their patron deity made Babylonia the birthplace of modern astronomy and astrology. Like the Sumerians, the Babylonians believed the gods showed their will through the stars. Soon afterwards, the Egyptians of the Middle Kingdom adopted the Babylonian system and made some refinements as they pleased. However, astrology did not come to Europe until the conquests of the Macedonian Alexander the Great, who conquered both Babylonia and Egypt. In the years that followed, the Greek alphabet spread across Asia, and scholars translated astrological texts from Babylonian cuneiform to the Greek alphabet. Of course, the Greeks had studied the stars before and developed their own science around them, though the Greeks were more worried about the stars' effect on agriculture rather than human destiny. By the 8th century BC, Hesiod stressed the importance of reading the stars before planting crops and the phases of the moon before planting seeds. Sowing seeds and grafting trees should be done at the beginning of the waxing moon, while a seed planted during the waning moon would not sprout, according to Hesiod. The Greeks also believed that trees planted during a waning moon would thrive only by the waxing moon. Hesiod went so far as to urge farmers to plant on the 9th and 13th day of the lunar cycle for the best results. And according to the Roman writer Virgil, barley and other grains should be planted only when the Pleiades constellation sets. Yet the Greeks proved less enthusiastic about Asian astrology. Around 280 BC, a priest of Bel named Berosus of Babylon traveled to the Greek island of Kos. There he introduced astrology and Babylonian culture to the local populations. This became the first recorded time that the world of astrology officially transferred to the West. Initially, the ancient Greeks proved skeptical about Babylonian astrology and asked many hard questions, such as why animals were not ruled by the same cosmic powers that supposedly governed humans. Yet astrology found a more enthusiastic audience in Ptolemaic Egypt, later the homeland of alchemy. The earliest Greek text that referred to the Babylonian division of the zodiac into 12 signs of 30 equal degrees each is the Anaphoricus of Hephaestus in 190 BC. A depiction of the classical zodiac's 12 signs, the Dendera zodiac, appeared 140 years later at a chapel dedicated to the Egyptian god Osiris. Ptolemaic Egypt would eventually be conquered by the Romans under Augustus Caesar, and during the 1st century AD, a Romanized Egyptian mathematician and astrologer named Ptolemy wrote a work called Tetrabiblos about the stars. In Ptolemy's thinking, Earth is a stationary sphere at the center of a vastly larger celestial sphere that revolves at a perfectly uniform rate around the Earth. The sphere carries within it the stars, planets, sun, and moon, thereby causing their daily risings and settings. Through the course of a year, the sun slowly traces out a great circle called the ecliptic against the rotation of the celestial sphere. The moon and planets similarly travel backwards, hence the planets became known as wandering stars as opposed to the fixed stars found in the solar ecliptic. Though we know that this system is false today, at the time it provided a logical and common-sense explanation for what people saw in the night sky. Thus, the Ptolemaic system survived, with a few modifications, for over 1,400 years, and it became the basis of astrology. That wraps things up for this episode of the Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.